I'm going to read a tweet that went viral in the worst way possible recently. This was the third video that popped up when I searched baby videos on YouTube. How much more proof do people need that they are after our kids? And the third video to pop up is a Little Nas song called Industry Baby, with a bunch of naked men in the thumbnail. Obvious homophobia aside, I really am fucking sick of parents thinking that the internet has to accommodate with their needs. Meaning that the internet has to be the safe, family-friendly place because, oh noes, children can access the internet. A lot of parents seem to not want to take any responsibility whatsoever when it comes to monitoring what it is their children are consuming on the internet or on TV, and would much rather blame media that is so obviously not for kids for their own failings. If you don't want your children potentially running into videos that are not appropriate for kids, then just have your kids simply not browse YouTube. Simple as that, right? Or better yet, there is a kid-friendly alternative to YouTube, aptly called YouTube Kids. This is what I fucking hate about a lot of parents these days. They just throw their kid in front of an iPad or an iPhone or an iPod Touch or whatever other mobile device they choose to let their kid use, and they let their kid browse the internet for hours on end every single fucking day, and then they're so shocked when their kid runs into something that is potentially not appropriate for their age group. Like, you allowed your kid to browse the internet for hours on end, unmonitored, and then you're so fucking surprised that they may have run into something that is not appropriate for their age. Like, maybe, just maybe, you should limit their usage of their time on the internet, or maybe, just maybe, actually watch over them when they're watching videos on the internet or just browsing the internet in general. It's not fucking rocket science, but so many parents just do not want to take responsibility when it comes to this. And you may say this comes down to parents simply being boomers when it comes to technology, not being the most tech savvy, but when it comes to young kids these days, the parents really aren't that old, usually. I have an 8-year-old cousin. I'll admit his parents had him a bit too early in life, but his parents are still young, that's my point, and most parents probably have kids around maybe their early 20s, maybe late 20s, early 30s at the latest. My point is, we have a new generation of parents that are quite a bit more tech savvy than the last. There is no excuse for shortcomings when it comes to monitoring what it is their children are consuming on the internet. There are parental controls, there are alternatives that only provide kid-friendly content like, again, YouTube Kids. This is something that younger parents should definitely know about. It all boils down to complete fucking laziness and not wanting to admit that you failed at a basic aspect of parenting. When I was 5 years old, roughly, I was surfing channels, and then I came across this on-demand channel that looked different from the other on-demand channels, and then I noticed there was a little bunny that was the channel's icon, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, and then I selected a video to watch, and it was a girl sucking a guy's cock. And that was my very first time watching porn. And someone walked in on me. And you don't want to know what happened? I got in trouble. My mom didn't try to get Playboy taken off the air. She punished me, and only me, because I was watching something that I should not have been watching at age 5. And you want to know what she did afterwards? She made sure she was monitoring more what I was watching on TV. I understand the internet is a completely different beast than TV. You have a lot more access to a lot more things, but there are definitely ways to prevent children from seeing things that they should not be seeing at a young age. There are parental controls, there are family-friendly alternatives, there are a myriad of different things you can implement on your devices to make sure kids do not see things that they should not be seeing at a young age. Raising your kid in front of an iPad screen is not a way to raise a kid. So many parents just want to make their kids shut up, so they just hand them an iPad and let them go ham on the internet, let them view whatever they want on the internet because they do a piss poor job at monitoring what it is their kids are watching on the internet. But if you raise a kid like that, do not be surprised at all if a kid comes across something they should not be seeing. Because that is totally on you. That is your own failing. It is the fault of no one else aside from, well, the kid for viewing something they should not have been seeing, and the parent for not monitoring what their kids are seeing on the internet. You can't blame the media itself because the media is so obviously not for kids. The biggest demographic of people who browse the internet, I'm sure, are adults, so obviously a lot of content put on the internet is going to cater adults. Understand that you fucked up. Learn from your mistake instead of trying to get things pulled, instead of trying to change things and ruin the fun for everyone else because you failed as a parent. And I'm sure you were able to pick up the pretty obvious homophobia in that tweet from earlier. How much more proof do people need that they are after our kids? Let's be honest, a lot of parents who use Think of the Children as justification to try to get media that represents LGBTQ plus people pulled are fueled by bigotry more than anything. They can't be a good parent and explain to their kids LGBTQ plus people, but instead they just want these forms of media pulled because they just hate these people and don't want their children to be exposed to these kinds of people at a young age, thus making them a bit more tolerant of these kinds of people than their parents are. So there's obviously that angle too. But bottom line is, so many parents these days just outright fucking suck. And seeing all these kids glued to iPads and iPhones, boomer moment, I know, just makes me glad that, I grew up right before the smartphone boom. I mean, obviously there were computers and there were phones that could browse the internet back then, but, it's not like what it is now. And I'm pretty glad that, again, I was a kid right before that age. I mean, don't get me wrong, I did spend a lot of time on the computer, but I also played with toys a lot. I played with friends a lot. I'm sure I used my imagination a lot more than little kids these days do. Yeah, I sound like a fucking 50-year-old right now. Let me end this video. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.